able to tell certain things that we can't tell from this report, Mr. Speaker. For instance, you know, my senior here is a retired judge. You know that the court that takes the evidence, Mr. Speaker, is not the same as an appellate court that only reads the documents. Because they're able to see the demeanor of the witnesses to tell whether somebody is being truthful or not truthful. It would be unfortunate that we can come up with a committee of this House. They utilize all the resources of the House that they have utilized. All the hours that the clerks have spent, and then when they bring a report such as this one, we want to run away from the report, including, I'm suspecting, some members here who already adopted this report and have not told us anything else other than what we can read here on this document. So I want to thank you, Chairman William Kipkemoi Kisang, for giving the people of Siaya hope that now at least devolution is going to work for them. I want to thank Senator Omogeni, Senator Onyonka, Senator Maanzo, Betty Batuli, Senator Abbas Sheikh, Senator Mwenda Gataya Mofaya, Senator Catherine Muma, Tabitha Mutinda, my delegate, one of my delegates from Nairobi. Thank you for giving the people of Siaya hope that devolution can work for them. Senator Miraj and my friend, Mheshimiwa Chimera, thank you so much for standing with the truth that where there has been a violation of the law, these senators, these distinguished senators will stand for the rule of law. They will stand for the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, there is a law, my brother, the senator for Kiambu, wants to trivialize the giving of false information by public officers. Mr. Speaker, it is the Constitution under Chapter 6 that imposes this responsibility on us as elected leaders. Mr. Speaker, there is also a law called the Public Officer Ethics Act. It is actually a crime under that act, Mr. Speaker, to give misleading information in public. So you cannot just tell us, because you people in your coalition, you are used to giving false promises to Kenyans, you tell us that you can just retract. That is not the law, Mr. Speaker. You know, we were promised 6 stadia, we never received that stadia. We were promised 1 million shillings, we were never given those 1 million jobs. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Senator, you must protect me.
Senators,
pause my time, please.
Senator Sifuna.
Yes.
You are carrying a report.
Mr. Speaker.
You are carrying a report.
Yes.
And your debate ought to be confined to the tenets of that report.
Okay.
I have not seen any study in that report. I have not seen any false promises being addressed in that report. Kindly confine yourself.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker,
let the
please.
senator be heard in silence. Proceed and conclude.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There was reference.
Senator Cherangei.
Mr. Speaker, can I be heard, please?
Senator Cherangei, I'm giving you a caution.
Mr. Speaker, there was an allegation here that was made that I was responding to. But anyway, I am happy that we as senators got to interact with this particular case. It was very interesting. For the first time in my life, I got an opportunity to see what a 1 million shilling chair looks like. Unfortunately, because I was not a member of the committee, I was not invited to sit on it like my brother, Senator Chimera. And I think having sat on that seat is when Chimera realized that resources that are due to the people of Siaya cannot be used for such things. And I applaud the committee for actually saying that this cannot continue, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, Mr. Speaker,
Senator Methu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for according me an opportunity to vehemently oppose this report that has been brought on the floor of this House by the Special Committee. I don't want to spend a lot of time thanking them because my colleagues have spoken to them. As a very young legislator, Mr. Speaker, of this House, I have taken time to go and read and interact with the library of this House, Mr. Speaker. And one of the very quotable quotes that I would want to quote today, Mr. Speaker, is a quote that was made in 2014 by a very distinguished senator of Homa Bay, the first senator of Homa Bay, Gerard Otieno Kajwang, during the impeachment motion of the deputy governor for Embu, Dorothy Nditi. The good senator for Homa Bay said, I want to quote him, that a deputy governor, it is more difficult to divorce a deputy governor than to divorce a wife, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, we should not and we cannot take advantage of the instruments of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, to settle political scores and for political expeditions, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, even as we speak the many things that are being spoken about here, it begs the question, how long has the Deputy Governor been in power? How long has the Deputy Governor been the Deputy Governor of Siaya? Just 9 months ago, Mr. Speaker, the accusers of this gentleman, the Deputy Governor of Siaya, Mr. Speaker, were merrymaking with him when they were campaigning, and they were very, very happy moving around with him. And just 9 months later, out of issues that I don't want to speak about because they are not part of the report, Mr. Speaker, we are now here for an impeachment. But, Mr. Speaker, I understand where the Senator for Kiambu is coming from. An impeachment is not just any other motion that we speak about on this House, Mr. Speaker. Once you have been successfully impeached, Mr. Speaker, because we must understand what are we speaking about. We might destroy the life of a person who otherwise would have been a very innocent person, because once you are impeached, Mr. Speaker, the law is very clear. You can never occupy any other office, Mr. Speaker. I have heard my very distinguished colleagues, and it is in the report, page 92, Mr. Speaker, that one of the charges against the Deputy Governor, Mr. Speaker, is issues to do with procurement, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, in the report, page 35 to 43, because one of our senators was accusing us of not having read the report, it is speaking about issues to do with disjointed procurement in Siaya, Mr. Speaker. Reading section 47(1) of the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, Mr. Speaker, a procurement function shall be handled by the procurement professionals whose qualifications are recognized in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, if then we are speaking about, and our colleagues have spoken here, if, Mr. Speaker, we are speaking about...
what is your point of order,
I hope my time
is... Save the time, the remaining time for Senator Metho, please.
2 minutes.
Senator Edu.
Mr. Speaker, I seek your indulgence on this issue because we are in a very serious issue. And, Mr. Speaker, my point of order is point of order 104. If Senator Methu might sit, Mr. Speaker, the fact that I'm seated, I'm taking the floor. Mr. Speaker, point of order number 104 says a senator who wishes to speak on any matter in which the senator has peculiarity or proprietary interest shall first declare the interest. Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether you heard the senator of Nyandarua saying that
Senator Ruto.
The impeachment, and I really seek your indulgence, Senator.
Let the senator be heard in silence, please.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, it is on record that the senator has said that the Deputy Governor of Siaya is here, and the impeachment motion that is here for other issues that are not in the report. And he has declared that verbatim, that this impeachment motion is here on other issues other than the issues that are in the report. Mr. Speaker, I seek your indulgence. We must respect this House. In as much as people want to use this issue of impeachment of the Deputy Governor of Siaya as a theater for political contestation and punching back here and there, the nation is watching, Mr. Speaker. Devolution is under threat, Mr. Speaker, if the House, such as the Senate...
Senator Eddie, let's save time. Your point of order is overruled. Proceed.
I know he wants to take advantage and debate, but Mr. Speaker, the point that I was making, and I would want to finish there, because we are speaking about procurement. If the governor of Siaya, because we are speaking about issues to do with procurement, if the governor of Siaya has bought a seat for his deputy for 1.1 million, how much more does it cost for the seat of the governor himself if the deputy governor is sitting on 1.1, Mr. Speaker? On a county as disjointed as Siaya, Mr. Speaker, when people do not have medicine, Mr. Speaker, when people cannot have access to health, Mr. Speaker, when children cannot get...
Honorable senators, we need to make progress. Senator Methu, debate the report. Debate the report.
I am debating the report, Mr. Speaker, because, Mr. Speaker, And you know, Mr. Speaker, then we must also be careful. When we speak about...
Senator Methu,
Yes, sir.
did you just say the chair should be...
I have said we must be careful. I never spoke about... I have
Then
never
proceed.
casted aspersions on the...
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, because we then have not... We cannot run away from the question. A school is burning down and you are going for the deputy principal of that school. Where the principal of there is the one and is the CEO of that institution, Mr. Speaker. Responsibilities on issues to do with a disjointed procurement. How do you bring the deputy governor? And the person who has been vested with the responsibility of being the CEO of that particular county is the governor of that county, Mr. Speaker. Why then do you want to roll the ball to another person, Mr. Speaker? Finally, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, because our friends have spoken, Mr. Speaker. In my very last comment, Mr. Speaker, we must be careful. We must deal with this matter because Senate is a house that is supposed to protect the interest, the justice, the equity of every.
Senator Mogene.
Mr. Speaker, first I want to thank the 11 members of the committee that have returned a unanimous verdict to this House, proposing the impeachment, Mr. Speaker, of the Deputy Governor of the County of Homa Bay. Mr. Speaker, can I be heard in silence, Mr.
Senator
Speaker?
Newton. Senator Newton, Senator Murango. Senator Cheptum.
Mr. Speaker,
We have taken time to read to you the standing orders, especially on how to address yourselves when you're in the chamber. Senator Newton, Senator Murango, Senator Cheptumo, I give you a caution. You commit any disorderly conduct, that door is open. Proceed, Senator Mogene.
Mr. Speaker, for purposes of clarity, Mr. Speaker, we have laid in our report at page 87, Mr. Speaker, we have attached decisions from Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker, that are supposed to guide this House on matters of impeachment. Mr. Speaker, if the House can go to page 87 on issue of impeachment, Mr. Speaker, what the court has said, Mr. Speaker, and I quote at that page, all that is required is that the allegations be substantiated. That's what the court has said, Mr. Speaker. And the charge, Mr. Speaker, that is facing the deputy governor of Siaya is interfering with procurement procedures, Mr. Speaker. That is the charge that he faced, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, if you read the report and you read even the cross-examination of Senator Chimera, Mr. Speaker, that matter was established beyond reasonable doubt, not even on a balance of probabilities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House, Mr. Speaker, has set the record. Mr. Speaker, we have impeached 2 governors. We have impeached the governor of Kiambu. We have impeached governor of Nairobi. Nobody has been impeached in this House, Mr. Speaker, for committing criminal acts, Mr. Speaker. It's issues of integrity, Mr. Speaker. As we speak here, Mr. Speaker, the report that is before the House, Mr. Speaker, demonstrates, Mr. Speaker, that the deputy governor of Siaya wanted to interfere with procurement and prevent youth and women of Siaya, Mr. Speaker, from benefiting from procurement. Mr. Speaker, where does he want the youth of Siaya to get opportunity to do business with the county government of Siaya? Where does he want the women of Siaya to get opportunities of doing business with counties, Mr. Speaker? You cannot, Mr. Speaker, allow such a deputy governor to continue occupying office, Mr. Speaker. And if you want to draw lessons, Mr. Speaker, even if you go to the US, Mr. Speaker, President Nixon, Mr. Speaker, was forced to resign from office, not because he committed any serious criminal acts, Mr. Speaker, but because he tried to interfere with the Watergate scandal, Mr. Speaker. So what is before this House, Mr. Speaker, is evidence that has been brought to this House demonstrating, Mr. Speaker, that the governor tried to interfere with procurement that was to benefit the youth and women of Siaya. Mr. Speaker, we should not allow a person who lives in a glass house to throw stones and get away with it, Mr. Speaker. When he appeared before the committee, Mr. Speaker, the deputy governor gave us an impression as a man who wanted to fight corruption in the county of Siaya, Mr. Speaker. He protested when the youth were being given these contracts, Mr. Speaker. But on the issue of the seat of 1.2 million, Mr. Speaker, he pretended that he was never aware, Mr. Speaker. How, Mr. Speaker, I'm asking this House, do you protect somebody who sits on a 1.2 million seat? And he pretends, Mr. Speaker, that he had nothing to do with the procurement of that seat. Mr. Speaker, the Uda administration, you have told us that you want to fight corruption. Today, we want you to demonstrate that indeed you want to fight corruption. If you want Kenyans to look at you as sheep in wolf's skin, we shall know today, Mr. Speaker. Members of this committee, Mr. Speaker, have demonstrated, Mr. Speaker, that we want the accountability mechanisms, the bar on accountability, Mr. Speaker, to be placed very high. There must be a beginning, Mr. Speaker. It cannot be business as usual, Mr. Speaker. When we are sitting here, Mr. Speaker, as judges on this impeachment process, Mr. Speaker, when judges pass a verdict, is to deter, Mr. Speaker. They want to pass a message of deterrence, Mr. Speaker. And this impeachment, Mr. Speaker, we want to send a message either to governors or to deputy governors, Mr. Speaker, that they should never interfere with professionals in procurement, Mr. Speaker. If we don't impeach, Mr. Speaker, if we don't pass this motion, we are opening a floodgate, Mr. Speaker, for governors, for deputy governors to start making calls to professionals in procurement to interfere with procurement processes. Mr. Speaker, this.
Senator Mundigi.
Bwana Spika, mimi nakataa mambo ya kutimuliwa kwa deputy governor wa Siaya kwa sababu tunajua kazi ya governor wakati wa siasa. Governor na deputy wake wanatembea kona zote wakifanya siasa. Lakini tunajua wakati kwa kuingia kwa ofisi, governor anachukuliwa kama mtoto ya shule. Pia deputy anachukuliwa kama mtu ana maana yoyote. Na ninataka kusema kwa sababu niko na ushuhuda ya kusema hiyo, pale Embu wakati wa kipindi ya kwanza, governor wa Mbora alichagua mandamu alikuwa anaitwa Ndrothi. Lakini wakati wa kufanya kazi alimnyanyasa kwa sababu Ndrothi hakuwa na pahali yoyote, mpaka hiyo mama akawa hakuwa ana maana. Alikaa na yeye mpaka unakuta sangira mnyang'anya gari. Na kwa kipindi ya miaka 5 iliisha, mara ya pili akachukua kijana mwingine anaitwa Dr. Kariuki. Nataka kusema for example, nataka kuongea
Senator Mazayo.
Yes.
Senator Mazayo. Mfano. Senator Mundigi. Just Senator Mazayo. Senator Mazayo, there is something called comparative analysis.
Asante Bwana Speaker. Bwana Speaker, hoja.
Proceed. Senator Mazayo, have your seat. Have your seat. Have your seat. Proceed.
Pili akachukua Dr. Kariuki. Siku moja tunakumbuka alisimamisha gari na gari ikawekwa polisi karibu mwezi mmoja. Kwa hivyo tumeona kazi ya magavana ni kunyanyasha vijana wetu wale watakuwa magavana kwa ile miaka ingine. Mimi nakataana na kusema kama gavana angetimiliwa, kama deputy angefaa aende, deputy gavana ndiye angekuwa kwanza kujibu maswali. Kwa sababu tunajua gavana ndiye yako na kidole ya kufanya kazi yote ya kuvuta watu, mambo ya kuandikana, gavana akushukuru kama ni mtu hana maana. Kwa hivyo mimi nakataana hiyo maneno. Ya pili, tunajua ingekuwa ni mambo ya kurusha mawe, watu wengine wangekuwa kwa hii nyumba. Na sasa wako hapa wakisema kutumuliwa kwa gavana. Kwa hiyo kwa deputy governor. Kwa hivyo nakataa, nataka kusema deputy governor wa Siaya anafaa arudishwe kazini. Asante.
Senator Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this motion. which I support. Mr. Speaker, I am one of the members of the select committee that came up with this report. And I want to commend our chair and every one of the members, Mr. Speaker, the majority leader, and Senator Methu are speaking loudly and actually interfering. Mr. Speaker, I believe the committee did its best in this matter. I see the debate is taking the model of the majority versus the minority. But in the committee, Mr. Speaker, we were able to canvass these issues very objectively. And it was a difficult decision arriving at the verdict we arrived at. And I would like to tell this House it could have gone either way. Mr. Speaker, of the two charges that were given, there were sub-allegations per charge, and some allegations were proven, while other allegations were not proven. Mr. Speaker, for those who watched, and for the public, for Kenyan citizens who watched, you know that on some of those allegations, the deputy governor actually admitted. So, Mr. Speaker, when you look at the threshold at section 33(6) on what we are supposed to report as a select committee, we are supposed to bring a report indicating whether any of those allegations were substantiated. And that is what we have reported before this House, Mr. Speaker. I would want to support my chair in urging the House that beyond just looking at this as a political issue of the DG Siaya, Governor Siaya, or any other, we need, as a Senate, to bring our mind to the issue of how we can get devolution to work well by ensuring we have clarity around issues of relationships between the two top officers within counties. Mr. Speaker, procurement laws are very clear, and procurement laws have ensured that the process is insulated against interference. But we were able to find the evidence that there were attempts to actually interfere with procurement processes. Mr. Speaker, in fact, in one instance, we found that the DG, as chair of our task force, wrote directly giving a list of people to be paid bills, which is a protocol that is not provided for under the Public Finance Management Act. Mr. Speaker, so we are speaking about serious issues. The DG was in charge of the finances, as he puts it himself, but he did nothing in terms of he did not show us one policy he had put in place.
There is a point of order, Senator Muma. Senator Kathuri is online on a point of order. Proceed, Senator Kathuri.
Can I proceed?
Clerk, we cannot see the senator. Can the senator be put on the screen? Proceed, Senator Muma.
Thank you, Speaker. We were not able to be shown one memo or anything written that in terms of policies that the DG helped to put in place. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to speak to the issue of collective responsibility. Mr. Speaker, if the cabinet were to have a cabinet member or the deputy president, when he differs with a group, going out there to say that my government is not doing this, that, or the other, it would make things difficult. The DG admitted to us that he does not take seriously the principle of collective responsibility, which makes it difficult even as we try to reconcile them, to ensure that that government, the DG, the governor, and the cabinet are able to work together. How can a cabinet trust somebody who will take off tomorrow to go and say, we have just discussed this, but I have told them I disagree with what they have discussed?
Senator Muma, we have to take a point of order from the Honorable Senator Kathuri. Can it be put on the screen? Yes, Senator Kathuri, what is your point of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when we were starting the motion, you made a ruling that 6 senators will speak from both sides. And Honorable Speaker, you know I'm not on either of the side with the other senators who are using the ambulance system. So I really wanted to catch your eye also so that you can recognize that we are on the queue.
Senator Kathuri, that is not a point of order, but I've noted it understanding order 1. Proceed, Senator Muma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I finalize, I know I'm in my last minute. All I would want to urge us is to seriously look at the report and the bundles of evidence provided and recognize that as a House, we need as a Senate to see how we can work with county governments to put in place mechanisms that can make county governments work. Mr. Speaker, in his opening remarks, DG made a plea on behalf of all deputy governors to say that they need to be protected. Mr. Speaker, I think as a broader issue, it is about pointing out, getting the...
Senator Okenyuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I've equally had a chance to skim through this report. But let's face it, Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Governor for Siaya, Mr. William Oduor, is being vilified for personifying the politics of for actually personifying people who want independence from the politics that Nyanza has been for the last 7 years. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be that a professional, a member of the ISPAC, a man who has worked with Safaricom, a man who has worked with Microsoft for more than 30 years, that now that his deputy governor is all of a sudden corrupt. Mr. William Oduor is not being in public service for the first time. He's neither being in leadership for the first time. So what we're actually seeing is an attempt to fix him. And governors should actually be aware that when you are elected with your deputy, you are actually like Siamese twins. You cannot be separated. So it cannot be that when you're looking for votes, you want the deputy governor's support, and when they are being put on the spot, you now want to drop them. This actually shows that whatever we are seeing here is not about the impeachment charges that have actually been brought. It's more than what we are seeing. If I quote Franklin Roosevelt, he actually says, in politics, nothing happens by accident. What's happening in Siaya is not by accident, and the Senate has an opportunity to actually rubbish some of those claims. They must be substantial. The Senate should not be used as a conveyor belt of listening to rumors and hot air allegations. This is a substantive House which should listen to matters that are substantive and give fair hearing to people who are brought to this House. Mr. Speaker,
Essie, there is a point of order. What is the point of order, Senator Essie?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on standing order number 105. It's very unfortunate for Honorable Okenyuri, whom I've known for many years, to insinuate that we are acting on rumors. When, Honorable Speaker, we have a report with us done by a committee of this House and tabled before this House. Is she in order, Mr. Speaker? Can she substantiate?
Senator Essie, to that extent, you're out of order. What is before us is a report. So we're not debating street talk or things that were heard outside there. The committee sat, prepared a report, tabled that report, and this debate is all about that report, not rumors.
Mr. Speaker, I stand guided, and I hope my few minutes that I was left with to conclude are still there. Mr. Speaker, I was actually sending a warning to the county chiefs that once you run with someone as your deputy, you are Siamese twins. It can't be that when you're actually looking for votes, you need them, and when they're on the fix, you no longer need them. So I oppose the report that has been brought to this House by the committee, and wish to say that whatever is happening to William Oduor in Siaya is an attempt to shut down voices of people who want to be politically emancipated from where they have been for more than 70 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Manzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that Article 181 had been quoted, and it talks about account governor, who also means account deputy, may be removed from office on any of the following grounds. And it goes on A to say gross violation of the Constitution or any other law. So therefore, if you are not caught on the Constitution, then you are likely to be caught on other laws. I thank the House. I was one of the members in this committee. Mr. Speaker, this job was done very thoroughly and professional. And the matter before us, Mr. Speaker, is between the County Assembly of Siaya and the Deputy Governor of Siaya. Mr. Speaker, when we look at that particular matter, when it was brought to us, an impeachment had already been conducted in Siaya, and there were 4 points on that. We were able to, 2 of them were not substantiated, but 2 were substantiated through the evidence which was tendered, and also admissions by the Deputy Governor of Siaya upon cross-examination by the Honorable Chimera and the Honorable Mofire. So, Mr. Speaker, we have just been brought facts, and the committee was very professional. It went through the whole process very carefully, listened to everybody, and all evidence adduced, including electronic evidence, Mr. Speaker, which had a transcript. And for that particular matter, in relation to the charge on Deputy Governor on gross violation of the Constitution and other laws on the allegation of interference with procurement process through acts of bid rigging, had been substantiated, Mr. Speaker, and mainly that was through the evidence tendered. Impeachment is a very serious matter, Mr. Speaker, and part of it is that it is also, I'm sure, the whole country is running. We are here for devolution. We want devolution to work in every single county, including Siaya. And even whatever happens in Siaya now, Mr. Speaker, we will give history and direction for the future. And I'm very sure after such a thorough process, it was not a joke. These were not rumors. This was not politics. There were facts and there are acts of parliament in play. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of abuse of office and gross misconduct on allegation of giving misleading information to public and giving false information was also substantiated, and there was a video played. There was transcript translated. There was cross-examination, Mr. Speaker, and there were admissions, Mr. Speaker. So the facts speak for themselves. I think as a House, we should not politicize this matter. It is not just about county of Siaya. It's about all the other counties. And our work is to protect devolution in this country. Our work is the biggest question we should be asking in our minds. Under this set of circumstances, will the people of Siaya be properly served? And Mr. Speaker, I think our duty is to ensure that the people of Siaya are properly served. I'm sure, even after going through such a rigorous process from the County Assembly and through the Senate, I'm sure everybody has had a lesson to learn, and I'm sure in future, devolution is going to be stronger. And therefore, I'm just calling upon everyone who is in responsibility, Mr. Speaker, whether governor, whether deputy governor, or anybody with responsibility, that the law exists and that the law does not favor anyone. And the moment you breach the Constitution or you violate an existing statute, such as the criminal code, it is a criminal offense actually to give misleading information. It is against the Constitution to cause disharmony in a county or even give wrong information publicly, especially on procurement. And it came out clearly that the county, the assembly together with the county government, which includes the deputy governor, had actually allocated certain amounts of money for a stadia, and it was going to be implemented. When information is given to the contrary, Mr. Speaker, I think the best thing one can do when they find they're in the wrong is to seek an apology and to seek reconciliation. Mr. Speaker, I support this report and urge that members vote with their conscience and look at the facts correctly so that we can set a precedence. Mr. Speaker, this is not the end of the journey. Whoever method the matter goes.
Senator Tabitha Mutenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me start by thanking my colleagues whom we were all very dedicated, 11 of us, in looking deeply into this issue. And let me state here categorically, Mr. Speaker, that out of the 11 members, 5 of us voted no to this impeachment, and 6 voted yes. And I want to state that on page 11, the members who voted no included I, Senator Mutinda, my colleague, Senator Miraj, Senator Chimera, the chair, Senator Kisang, and Senator from Tharaka-Nithi County, Senator Gataya. Why do I put this cross, Mr. Speaker? Is because the members want to indicate that this report was unanimous. It was not unanimous. This is an adoption report that requires from our standing orders that we should be able to adapt a report. The Hansard is there clearly indicating the votes of yes and no. But let me state, Mr. Speaker, the issues as a committee that we came across were issues of 2022. The issue of ISPAC, Mr. Speaker, and the issue of the office and the chair. These procurement processes took place in 2022 and not 2023. And yet the County Assembly has come to impeach the Deputy Governor in the year 2023 in June. And like then, why not having done the same last year? Why is it being brought now? Because it is a political process, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me state that, that we have seen the roles of deputy governor not being indicated. It is the high time that we look at our laws as a house and give the deputy governors roles, the same way the president has given the deputy president and the cabinet, the prime cabinet, roles in this country. It is in this regard that deputy governors are just being used during political campaigns. What the deputy governor of Siaya has clearly raised is the impressed issues. PFM Act, Article 90, clearly indicates that there should be a cap that is set by the County Assembly. It is the high time now, Mr. Speaker, that the governor of Siaya, none other than Orengo, should be able to state all the interest that came from the county revenue, the CRF account, to the interest account with no justification, Mr. Speaker. All said, Mr. Speaker, as I finish, I want to state that governors are to be...
Order, Senator Tabitha. Senator Tabitha, Senator Mazayo, just have your seat. Please have your seat. Senator Mazayo, kindly have your seat. Okay. In my dashboard, I don't have your name. I have that of Senator Sifuna. Proceed to make your point of order.
Mr. Speaker, you know that the statements that are made here must be relevant to the discussion that we are having here. Mr. Speaker, you have already given us direction. Yes. Senator or Governor Orengo is not an accused person, is not facing any charges before this particular Senate. Mr. Speaker, the person who is the subject of these proceedings is the Deputy Governor. If in fact there are other issues, and I would like, Mr. Speaker, that you direct that the senators on the floor also tell us which page we can find the things they're discussing, because as far as I can tell, the information that Senator Mutinda is putting here about Impress has not been addressed in this report. And I've read this report in its entirety. Mr. Speaker, you asked us when we were presenting to confine ourselves to the report. I beseech you, Mr. Speaker, that you make the same direction to all senators who will come and make presentations, because that matter has not been addressed in this document.
Thank you, Senator Sifuna. Now, honorable members, the chairman has tabled a report. The debate that is ongoing is all about that report. If you had anything in a funeral, that's no subject of debate. So kindly confine yourselves to the report. If a matter is not captured in that report, please do not introduce new matters to this report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand guided all through. Thank you. But I want to state that as we looked into these issues, there is a very clear letter written appointing the Chief Officer of Finance, clearly indicating that the officer should report to the Deputy Governor. And I want to thank the Governor on that particular point, because at the beginning of the County Assembly of, the County of Siaya, the Governor was working very well with the Deputy Governor, and in that regard, he gave him roles. And why? Mr. Speaker, because he's an expert matters finance. And that is how we were able to come across and be able to see all the financial matters that the Deputy Governor had raised. The Deputy Governor, it is good this House to note that he was the chair of the Pending Bills Committee, a very key committee, because as a Vice Chair of Finance, we are dealing with issues of pending bills in this country. And it is the high time that when we have committees at the county levels that are able to look at the key issues, the priorities of the suppliers who need to be paid in this country, what is wrong, and the role that the Deputy Governor played, he was the chair of that committee. He was able to submit with the relevant committee. He was not sitting alone, because as a chair, then you sit with members. It was not his decision alone. It was a committee's decision. And in that regard, he was able to execute his mandate. All these things that happened actually months ago. It is in this time that out of frustrations, he spoke. Yes, he has a right to speak. There's freedom of speech. The Deputy Governor stood out and spoke. Then I asked if he was wrong. Then why did not the Governor not come out and say, my deputy is telling you the wrong thing and this is the right thing? Nobody spoke and countered the Deputy Governor in that regard. So in a nutshell, Mr. Speaker, what...
Senator Beatrice Akinyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise to support the report tabled here by the chair of the impeachment committee that includes Senator Tabitha Mutinda. And as I begin, I sympathize with my sister, Senator Mutinda, because I see her struggling to exonerate her signature, which is very clear on page 11, and probably to people that are not in this sitting, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also heard Senator AC talk so well about CVs of the Deputy Governor of Siaya, and I thought Senator AC should know that with such CVs that she refers to, then the Deputy Governor should not fall prey to issues of gross violation of the Constitution and abuse of office. Honorable Speaker, senators have talked here about fights. And we say the fights are very unnecessary. Why do I say so? Everybody should know which seats they are going for when elections are called. If you are a deputy, you go for a deputy governor. Do not for once imagine that once you are elected with the governor, then you will be the governor once you are in office, because the offices are as different as day and night. And Honorable Speaker, I refer you to the County Government Act and the county executive functions that spells out the functions and powers of the governor. The powers are spelled out in Part 5, but Honorable Speaker, coming to the deputy governor, the Constitution is very clear that the deputy governor shall deputize for the governor. At no time did the Constitution intend the deputy governor to be a governor of a county. And if you want to be the governor while you are deputy governor, the best thing you can do is to patiently do your work as a deputy governor and wait for the next election when you are free to vie as a governor, and once you are elected, then you can perform those functions. Honorable Speaker, the duties of the governor, deputy governor, as I say, are very clear. That the governor may assign the deputy any other portfolio as stipulated in the Constitution. And Honorable Speaker, I do not expect that this Senate is going to exonerate the deputy governor of Siaya having violated the Procurement Act, which to me is criminal and not only an issue of integrity.